Thank you for joining us today while we're talking about building an elections dashboard. This is the second in a series of elections-based trainings, the first of which was earlier today on finding and cleaning data, and will be followed by a performing sentiment analysis discussion. All of these recordings will be available from the elections page, the elections 2016 page on tableau.com. And all of the resource files and links that I share today will also be available up there. So let me take a moment to show you what we're actually going to be building today during this training. Let me close this window out. And this is an example. This is actually the visualization I created, which takes the congressional maps, and it allows you, I've got some instruction here, to select the state. So we'll do Arkansas, and then we will select the district. The screen is taking a moment to refresh. So we'll not do Alaska, we'll do Arkansas or Arizona. And then we'll take the district, and you'll note that the map actually increases in size and will bring up the incumbent who is in that district. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so you can see it all at once. So again, if I go back and I choose a different state, like Florida, the 5th district is currently highlighted, but if I choose District 2, it'll show the incumbent and also the challengers for that particular seat. So that's what we're looking at building today, or something pretty close to that. So you might want to ask about, why am I going out of my way to build a congressional map? Can't I just immediately drag and drop this into Tableau? Should be really no big deal. In fact, there's a little bit of a wrinkle in this year's election, which is why I'm doing this training today. So currently, the 114th Congress is seated. This is the group of folks that were elected in 2014, in November 2014, and they make up the 114th Congress, and that's actually built-in congressional districts into Tableau and Tableau Public. However, the election that takes place this year, November 2016, is for the 115th Congress. And that in itself shouldn't have caused us to do anything different. But it turns out that there are actually 3 states, Florida, Virginia, and North Carolina, that are redistricting this year due to some lawsuits. So as opposed to the once every 10 years redistricting because of census, this is actually redistricting because there's some lawsuits requiring the states to change their district boundaries. So those district boundaries for those states are not in Tableau, which means that we need to use shape files in order to build these in Tableau. Let me show you what Florida looks like before. So this is the current 113th and 114th Congresses, the Florida district map. And just for good measure, this is the 115th Congress. And let me show you an example, something that's a little bit easy to see, maybe easy. This is the 15th district within Florida. And currently, the 15th district just takes up this little spot right here. It doesn't stretch into what is currently now the 10th district. And you'll notice that the 10th district changes shape as well. So there are definitely some changes to the map, and we're going to be talking about those as we build this dashboard for the 115th congressional elections. So when is Tableau going to have the new districts into the product? I'm not sure, but it won't be until after the election is over. So that means if you're building a congressional district map for your state or the country, you're going to need to use this method until the election is over. And I mentioned shape files, and a lot of you might be just groaning at this point. Ugh, what do I have to do this custom work? I promise I'm going to make it really easy for you. But if you're really interested, I will include in the resource files for this training after some step-by-step instructions on how to use custom shapes with open source GIS tools, as well as custom Tableau maps from these shape files. Okay, this is a little bit more complex than you would typically have to do. But as I said, we are going to make it really, really easy for you because there's less than a month or just about a month to the election. We're going to use a shortcut for this training, and I'm going to post that shortcut with a full Excel spreadsheet and the full Tableau workbook so that you can use them. They're already built. You don't have to go through the sort of process to bring in shape files within Tableau. All right, so essentially, this is what a Excel spreadsheet looks like with custom shape files defined. So there's some important things that I want to point out here only because we're going to refer to them later. Let me take out these filters so that you can see them. So this field, polygon ID, sub-polygon ID, and point ID are going to be used in building this Tableau map. So this is our spreadsheet that we're going to use to build our dashboard today. And I'm going to post this entire spreadsheet up on the site so that you're able to download it. If you need it immediately, you can send me an email message and I will send it to you as well. Let me tell you what else is in this spreadsheet so you're aware of it. So this first tab, that's 115th districts, define the custom shapes, including those for Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida that are redistricting. The second tab is Congress people. This lists the state and the district of every congressperson that is currently an incumbent in that district, as well as anybody who is a candidate seeking office in that district. I've included the name, the party, the date that they were elected, the years in office, and also their status. And the status, when I show you the drop-down, you'll see that there are a few. There's a candidate, a deceased party. There's actually one person in Congress who died in the last 2 years. Somebody who's defeated in the primary, one person, several people who are not seeking re-election, some that are retiring, and some that are seeking re-election. These will come into play a little bit later as we work through the dashboard. And the last column I want to call out that's actually quite important is one that I call 114th Congress. And this is the column I use to filter out who's currently an incumbent versus who is just a candidate. Okay, so this will come into play a little bit later. The next tab I want to show you is the Polygon ID tab. This is what maps the polygon ID. So a polygon is going to make up the shape of the district. So for every polygon, there are a number of points, but what I don't have on the first tab is a mapping of the polygon ID to the district number. So that's what this tab is going to accomplish. So I can specifically find polygon ID 346 on this tab and know that that is Alabama District 2. All right. I've also added a couple of other columns that I'm in fact not really using in this sample, but I'm going to go ahead and make them available. All of this came from the data source Ballotpedia, Ballotpedia, like Wikipedia, so that I was able to confirm all of the statuses of the different incumbents and the challengers. And then the last tab I don't use in this example at all. It is a location of the Wikipedia pages for all the congressional pages for all of the states. This was something I thought about using but decided not to use it, but it's out here in case you want to use it yourself. All right, so let me go ahead and open Tableau, and I'm going to connect to that Excel file. All right, and when I connect to that Excel file, you'll see that on the left side of the screen, they're the same 4 tabs that we just talked about in the spreadsheet: 115th district, Congress people, polygon ID, and URL pages. I'm going to take the 115th districts and I'm going to drag it into this area, and I'm going to give it a minute to load because you'll see all of those columns appear down here. And it's a little bit large, so we'll give it just a minute to join. Okay, so These are all of the fields that you just saw. Actually, I shouldn't make it that small. We need to use that. These are all the fields that you saw. There's polygon ID, there is sub-polygon ID, and point ID. All right, and it has a longitude and latitude that is tied to that particular location of the polygon. So we're going to use those in just a minute. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to drag over the polygon ID into the same area, and it's going to create an inner join. I do want this, in fact. I'm going to click on this darkened area, and I'm going to make sure that I connect the polygon on the 115th district, not only the polygon ID, but the state ID. All right, so they are it's joined in two different fields, and I make sure that for every polygon ID, there's a unique state that's associated with it. There are a lot of districts that are the same number, but there's only one district and there's only one unique district and state combination. So this is important to actually call them out in here as well. And then the next thing I'm going to do is drag Congress people over. And Congress people, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure that the state is associated and also the district. Okay, so that the state, the congressperson is tied to both their state and their district. And then I'm going to close that, and that's actually all I'm going to do on this page. So you notice that I haven't changed anything about the data connection. I haven't changed anything else on this page. I'm going to go directly to worksheet 1, and we are going to create a map. So I went ahead and changed the title of the tab because I want to remember sort of where we are. And this is kind of where the fun gets started. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the way that this left side that I view it, because it's kind of a lot. I know that there are Congress people, there are Polygon ID. These are all from those different tabs. So I'm going to right click and choose Group by Folder. And that way I can just see what the specific columns are. Sometimes they're going to be duplicated because some are from different sheets like state and Polygon ID. And in fact, district down here as well. Make these a little taller. District is right here. This is actually kind of important, so I'm going to change this to a dimension, because district in this case is not actually a number that we're going to use for calculation. It's really a category. So you would never say combine. You would never add District 1 to District 4 to equal District 5. That doesn't really make any sense. So those are essentially labels, and what I have just done is created it, or I will be using it as a label by putting in the dimensions area. Any questions so far? All right. While I'm still in the middle of cleaning and sort of preparing this first dashboard, I do want to call out one more thing. And that is about at-large districts. So there are 7 states that have districts that don't have a number associated with them. They are considered at-large districts. States like Alaska, North Dakota, South Dakota. There's 4 more that I can't remember off the top of my head, but those districts are all considered at-large, meaning that representative represents the entire state as opposed to an individual district within the state. Now, in order to make this map go a little bit smoother, I made all of those districts that were at-large, I made them District 1, because Tableau had a really hard time recognizing that at-large is the same thing as District 5, for example. One was a number and one was a label, and it really couldn't process these pretty well. So I made all of the at-large districts District 1. But I do still want those to appear as at-large districts. So for that, I created a calculated field. All right. So let me create a calculated field right now. I'm going to, come on. hard to do with all of these all scrunched together like this. I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a calculated field. And I'm going to call this district number. District number, okay? So my calculated field is going to say if in the state field you see Alaska, then I want the district number to equal at large. Else, and then I'm going to repeat this for all of the 7 districts. So let me actually open the final version so I can pull this calculated field in. You'll see exactly how it works. So give me just a moment to open that up, because there's a lot of typing and inevitably I'm going to fat finger it, so I might as well get it right for you the first time. So I'm going to unhide the sheets, I'll go over here, and I'm going to pull out this. So if the state equals Montana, then for district number, say at large. And this last item here, otherwise, just use the district for the Congress people as a string. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm just going to close that because I will use that in this version. Okay, so I'm going to click OK, and you'll note that when I did that, it created what's basically a string, which is exactly what we want it to be, for the district number. Otherwise, if we looked at Alaska or Montana or North Dakota or South Dakota, those would all show up as District 1, and that's not actually correct. It is, in fact, district is at large. All right, I don't want to change this. This is my old one. All right, now we're going to go ahead and create the map. Now, to do this, this is going to be pretty easy. I'm just going to double click on latitude and longitude. Those were 2 fields that I had in my data set. They were in the spreadsheet that I'm going to give to you. Now, you might want to ask, why are you not using the generated latitude and longitude? And that's because those are based on the state that it thinks that I'm going to put in here, because there's state in a couple of these fields. But it's not necessarily tied to the polygon. So you want to use the latitude and longitude that you have taken the time to create in this spreadsheet. So that's what we're going to do here as well. So I've got latitude and longitude in here, and you'll see that's only really a dot. So we're going to keep going. In the marks card right here, I'm going to change this to polygon. Okay, this is an important thing that you do as we're creating these custom shapes. We're going to take the polygon ID, drag it to detail, and drop it. And you see this goes kind of crazy. That's all right. Just stay with me here. And we're going to take subpolygon ID and we're going to drop it on detail also. And it's getting a little better, but I'm still not sure what it's doing. And then what you're looking for is the point ID. And you're going to take point ID and you're going to drop it on path. And now you see that I have one filled in map of the United States. All right. So one other piece that you want to do is we're going to filter this by the 114th Congress. Why? Well, I'll show you. So I want only the 114th Congress people's data. So anybody who is currently an incumbent. Any hints on why I'm going to do this? So I'm going to take the party information for these people, and I'm going to drop it on color. So what would happen if I had a party member for somebody who was actually not an incumbent? It's not going to know how to do the color. So I really only want to see the colors for the incumbents, and I'm using the filter for that. And then I'm going to change the colors so that the party colors actually match. So I'm going to go in here and change color by clicking on this tab, choose Edit Colors. And then for Democratic, I'm going to make it a darker blue because it's actually a little bit easier to see this way. And then for Republican, I'm going to make it a nice dark red. Let's see what it looks like. Well, it's a little dark, but we're going to also come in here and on the border, I'm going to change this to white. And when you do that, now you can actually see all of the districts. If I zoom in really tight, I'm going to move this around a little bit. You can see all of the individual districts in Florida, including the one that we talked about just a minute ago, which was District 5, this right here. Okay? So that is now showing you each district by the party color of the incumbent in that district. Any questions so far? All right. One more thing we're going to do on this particular map is we're going to clean up the tooltip. Because you see if I hover over the tooltips right now, they say a whole lot of information, but none of it is really very helpful. So I'm going to take the person's name, and remember, we're still filtered by the 114th Congress, so this is all right. I'm going to take the name of the person, I'm going to drop it on tooltip. I'm going to take the party, and I'm also going to drop that on the tooltip. I'm going to take the state, and I'm going to drop that on the tooltip. And the last thing I'm going to do is the district. And I'm going to take this one because this is our calculated field that accounts for Alaska. So before I drop that, let me show you what it's doing. So if I look at Alaska, I know that that is actually an at-large district. Okay, so if I just put district without this calculated field in the tooltip, you'll see that the district that appears in Alaska now is 1, but I don't want it to use 1. I want it to use the calculated field that I created. So I'm going to undo that with Control Z, and I'm going to grab this one, and I'm drop that on the tooltip. And now, when I hover over Alaska, you'll see that district number now equals at large. This is at least some of the data that I want to appear when I look at the tooltip. But I don't like the way that looks. So I'm going to open up the tooltip box. And let's say I want to start with the state. So I'm going to put the state here at the top. And I'm going to put the district number right under that. Maybe I don't need that much space between those, so let's just give it a district number. And then I want to put the incumbent name, so that's this one, and perhaps their party. I'm going to take that, put it right here. And in fact, let's do this. And then let's say, I don't really care about point ID, polygon ID, or subpolygon ID, so I'm going to just delete those. And I've already taken, I don't really care about the latitude and longitude, so I'm going to delete those. And let's just take a look and see what it looks like. And it's okay, but what can we do to make it look a little bit nicer? Let's also include the years in office. That's kind of cool. That might actually look pretty nice. And let's go back into the tooltip, and I'm going to add the years in office down here. So insert years in office. So I'm going to say years in office. All right, so this is actually just going to be the number. And then I'm going to take this state, and I'm going to make it nice and big. And then I'm going to take the district and all the other information. I'm going to make it a little bit larger, but not so large. And then this whole business right here, I'm going to do that. And then now when I hover, I see Montana at large, who the incumbent is, what the person's party is, and how many years in office. And if I go to North Dakota, that's still an at-large district. Let's zoom in a little bit and let's see if we can find one that's not an at-large district. Let's say Mississippi, district number 2, years in office 5. All right. So notice this one, I saw somebody here, years in office 13. So this is all of the district information using the incumbent name and the incumbent party. That's really all I'm going to do with this map. So you can make the tooltip as detailed as you want. I'm going to go ahead and keep it really pretty simple at this point, but at least I've gotten the at-large showing properly. Hawaii is a kind of an interesting one down here. It's really tiny, but there's actually 2 districts involved in Hawaii. one for Honolulu right there, and one for the rest of all of the states. So that's what we're looking at, and now we actually have a map built. All right, the next thing we're going to do is a really simple incumbent chart. So now we actually have a map, but we're just going to have a list of names, because what we want to do is create something that looks like this, right? That has the person's picture and their name and sort of what their status is. And then next to it, we're going to put who wants the seat. So it'll actually give the list of challengers, all right? So I'm going to do this by creating a new worksheet. I'm going to call this incumbent so I don't forget what I'm working on. And this one is going to be even simpler. So I'm going to take the 114th Congress, because again, we want just the incumbents. So I want to say yes there. And then I'm going to put the person's name on the row and their status on the row. Okay, so only 114th Congress should be appearing. I've got name and status, and I'm going to actually give this a little bit more space, and I'll tell you why. So I'm going to right-click and choose Format, and then I'm going to increase the size of these a little bit. So now you can actually read that a little bit better. I'm going to open that up and then close this Format pane and just kind of scroll down and make sure that you've got enough room for everybody. And this is kind of nice because some of these people have really long names or multiple names. So I just want to make sure that I don't have anything that looks like it's kind of scrunched in, so that it won't look as nice when I put it on the dashboard. All right, these look pretty good. So that's the incumbent, and I'm going to do the same thing for the candidates, which is also going to be pretty simple. I don't want the 114th Congress this time, though, because I want new people or people who may or may not be in Congress. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to look for their name. I'm going to drag it to the row. I'm going to look for their party. And now I'm going to pull their status. And this is what we're going to filter on this time. So you take a look and you'll see that I've got some that are seeking re-election, some that are candidates, and then there's not seeking re-election. There's some that are retiring. I think there's retiring right here, defeated in primary. So I want to filter those out. So I'm going to pull status to the filter box. And again, we've taken a look at these when they were part of the spreadsheet. I'm going to remove the ones that are not currently running for Congress. So that means anybody who has died, defeated in the primary, not seeking re-election, or retiring. So that leaves me with candidate and seeking re-election. And I'm going to click on OK. So now that should be all I have to do with this one. I'm going to increase the size of these a little bit also, just so that we can read them a little bit better on the next page. Format that. And let's give them just a little bit more visibility, but not quite as much as the incumbent. And I'm going to stretch this just a little bit more. Okay, so now we have some candidates. Now the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to take you back to the Tableau dashboard, is this little thing right here. This takes a little bit more work, but it's not impossible. It is a little tricky in this one because there are 435 pictures you want to pull, and that's a lot of people to make sure that you have their names matching. So this is how I did this. So these are all 435 pictures that I have of the current incumbents in Congress. I took a lot of time to make sure that their names were spelled exactly the same or pretty close to how they appear in the spreadsheet. There are definitely some unusual ones. The spreadsheet was pulled from a database pull from Wikipedia, whereas the pictures are named according to whomever uploaded the pictures. So I needed to go through and manually correct any spelling, anything that was a little bit different. Some people, for example, Chuck Schumer's picture was titled Chuck Schumer, but his entry in the database was Charles Schumer, which put him out of order. So I wanted to make sure that they matched completely. And this was pretty important because I took this entire list of 435 incumbents and I put them in my Tableau repository folder. You'll see that's highlighted right up here into the shapes folder. I created a folder called 114th Congress, and that's where all of these exist, because here's what it looks like when you bring it in Tableau. So I'm going to create a new worksheet. I'm going to call these photos, and I'm going to change this marks card to shape. All right. Now I'm going to take 114th Congress, because again, that's all I really want are these folks that are incumbents. I'm going to say yes to that. And it puts one entry out here because I don't have any other detail yet in the dashboard. So I'm going to bring name and I'm going to drop name onto shape. Name are the people that are currently incumbents. And it's saying, hey, there's almost 1,200 members, but I really only recommend, 10. That's because it's saying that it's finding all 1,200 entries, including candidates, retiring, anybody who's not seeking office. So I'm just going to tell it to add all members, and I'm going to trust that this filter is working. And in fact, it is working. It works pretty well. But you'll notice this is all the same symbol. This doesn't make any sense. When you click on the Shape button here, and you choose Select Shape Palette, this is where you're going to find the 114th Congress. This is what happens when you put a folder full of pictures or shapes into the shapes folder in your repository. Okay? So now I have all of these out here, and I could sit here and I could manually assign these. But if I've done my work right and I'm crossing my fingers at it, I can just choose Assign Palette. And if I've spelled everything properly and the names match in both the photo file name and the spreadsheet, this should work. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and click Apply. So I'm going to click on OK, and now you'll see that there's 435 or so photos in here. But how do you know that you got it right? Well, you don't really know until the end, and I learned this the hard way. If you happen to know, you can make these a little bit larger, and you'll see that the tooltip is giving you the name of the person. But I can't see everybody, so it's hard for me to know if I know who these people are. So I'm just going to hover over one of them and say, okay, is that really Barbara Lee? In fact, it is Barbara Lee. So I know I'm okay at least up to this part, this list of pictures. So then I would actually keep going until I did a spot check all along the 435 members and make sure that they look pretty close. Now, I have to tell you from experience, this took me about 3 or 4 hours to do because I had some names that weren't spelled properly or I had some mismatch. But I went ahead and fixed those because it really looked nice in the dashboard for me to do this. So that's how I'm going to use these pictures in here. I don't really need to see the names over here. That's not really important, so I'm just going to hide this card altogether. And that's all I'm going to do for the photos. So now we've created 4 separate types of charts, and we're going to create a dashboard. And before we do that, I want to see if you have any questions before I continue. All right, so let me take a sip of tea and we'll keep going. So I'm going to click New Dashboard right here. And I'm just going to work off of the default size of the dashboard just temporarily because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time going into how to create this for mobile. There's a lot of best practices that you can do on creating mobile dashboards. There's a couple things that I will do that will make a difference if you decide to convert this to mobile later, and I'll mention that, but I'm not going to go ahead and design with that in mind as we start. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take the map and I'm going to drag the map over to the dashboard. And you'll see that it drops it in place. It creates a color key right here. The title is appearing and the map is right here. It's a little hard to see because the screen is a little small, but I'm going to go ahead and close this color key and delete it because really most of us here at this point know that red is Republican and blue is Democrat. If you want to, you can add a color key or you can move it around later. I'm also going to hide the title because I don't necessarily want the word map appearing on the top of the screen. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little bit of vertical space because remember, I want it to look like this. So I have some filters here at the top. I have a title. I have some instruction. Then I have a map and then incumbent area and then the challenger area. So I'm going to do that by creating a little bit of vertical space here. So all I did was I took this object that was vertical and I dragged it until I saw the gray box telling me about where I was going to put that vertical space. That's about where I want it. And I'm going to take this then and I'm going to add a horizontal item. And it's a little hard to do, but there it is right there. This is where I'm going to put the incumbent information. And then I'm going to take another horizontal item right there and I'm going to put the candidate information. And the very last thing I'm going to do is take the photo and I'm going to put it right here. So it takes up half of the incumbent space. Okay? The next thing I want to do is I really don't like these titles. So I'm going to go back to the original and I'm going to hide the field labels for the rows. I'm going to do that for both of these. And then I go back to the dashboard and you'll see they're gone now, but I don't like these titles that appear because I know that they're the titles of the worksheet. So I'm going to hide the title of the page just by right-clicking here, choose Hide Title, and the same thing right here, hide the title, and I'm going to do that here as well, hide the title. But I am going to add a little bit of text here to the top, and I'm going to call this Who's the Incumbent? Question mark. I'm going to make that a little bit larger. Ooh, let's see, did that take up too much space? Let's do this. Let's make that a little smaller. Who's the incumbent? And then I'm going to do the same thing over here for who wants the seat. I'm going to do it right there. And I'm going to change this so that it matches right there. So you can see that I need to do a little shifting of things so that there's enough room on here to show the incumbent's picture, that there's not too much information that shows over here. So maybe I'm going to scooch that over a little bit. So some of this is just a matter of kind of playing with the sizes of these just a tiny bit. So if I make this even wider, watch what happens when I go back to the dashboard. So now I don't have a horizontal scroll bar. Well, that's pretty nice. And there's definitely something off the screen that I don't really care about. So I'm going to move that over a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing for right here for the incumbent. So I'm going to make this a little larger. So that's going to scroll off the screen. And this is what we have. Okay, so we have horizontal or we have vertical scrolling, but no horizontal scrolling. Now the last thing we want to do is we want to add a title at the top. So I'm going to call this 100 Congressional Election 115th edition. And I'm going to make this a little bit larger. Okay, make it bold, and I'm going to center that. So, I made it really big. Let's make that a little smaller. Of course, you can change the font on that just fine. And if I were matching the published version exactly, I would also add in some, a little context information so that it explains sort of the sources and what the dashboard is actually saying. But I'm not going to do that in this example. You can follow up on it if you want. So I'm going to go back to Tableau, and the last thing I need to do now is I need to create those really cool filters. So I'm going to come up to the map because the map is actually what's filtering all of this data. So I'm going to come over here, choose filters, and I want to show the filter for state. And I also want to show the filter for district. Okay, so this is the state filter, and this is the district filter. And if I change this to a single value dropdown. This is what's going to make it easier for somebody who's on a mobile phone to use a visualization like this. I'm going to move this so that it's not all the way over there. I'm going to put it right there, and then I'm going to make it really small. And then I'm going to do the same thing for district. I'm going to take this and put it right there. And so they share the space right here. So there's actually state and district appearing. And I now want to change these so that they apply to all of these worksheets. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one, for district. Apply to worksheets. I could have just done all that use this data source, but I want to be specific. All right, so now, take a minute. Now you'll see that I have the filter for state and the filter for district, and let's see if it works. So let's go down to Arkansas. So it definitely brought up Arkansas. And then let's see, look at this. It actually says that there are 4 districts in Arkansas. So if I click on District 2, then, and this is taking a little time because I'm sure I'm moving a little slow on my computer. It's showing one person, French Hill, but notice that this layout is just a little funny. So the incumbent thing is working right, the seat thing is working right, but maybe I need to make these a little bit bigger so that I can see everybody that's listed in here. Let's make it bigger still. All right, so now we can actually see it, but there's still a problem with this one. So I imagine it has to do with either the size of the picture, so make that a little bit smaller, and what happens? That's a little bit better, but I still don't like the alignment of that thing. I wonder if I can just change that alignment a little bit. Let's see if I can. Let's do center align. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try it. We're going to change that, and we're going to change that. Nope, that didn't change anything. A little bit larger. Well, let's just do this a little bit. All right, so what do you think? That look a little bit better? Well, let's see what happens if we go to one of the states that has more than just 4 districts. Does it correctly show the information on the district number? So we're going to go to California. So if I choose California, in theory, I should have a whole lot of districts in this list, and I do. I have all 53 districts, and the 53rd district should be, I think, the person at the very bottom, up pretty close, Susan Davis. This is the incumbent who wants the seat. It shows the party. It shows the district shape right here. And in case you're wondering, how can I make this map look a little bit nicer? This is now just a bell and whistle. You can go back to the map tab. You can change the background maps, or we can do map layers. This is even easier, and choose the style to normal. And see, you get a little bit more coloring here. So if you were looking at the entire dashboard, let's say we reset these filters so that you see everything. And this is slowing down because I've got a lot of data back here. If I made an extract of the data, I'd be able to see everything. So now you see this is a little bit darker. There's a little bit more contrast in the map, but maybe you want something even more dramatic. You can do map layers, and you could choose dark if you wanted to. That is incredibly dramatic. You can change the washout a little bit, and you'd have something that looks a little bit like this. A little bit harder to see, but it's certainly an option. At this point, you're really just sort of playing until you get the charts and the dashboards looking the way that you want them to. I'm just going to put it back to normal, and I'm going to change the washout to where it was, because I like the way that looks. I'm going to close this and go back to the dashboard, and you'll see that it updates here just fine. So now that you have a dashboard and all of these are showing, so currently everybody's going to show when you first land on this dashboard, just like it does here. I have everybody showing up. The last thing you want to do is you want to save it to Tableau Public. So let's say you're completely done here. You're going to go up to Server, Tableau Public, Save to Tableau Public As. And it's going to say you need a data extract. And that's because this particular spreadsheet has about 1,200 people in it, plus several thousand rows that are tied to those polygons you have forgotten about by now, I hope. So we're going to go ahead and go to the data source column, choose extract, and you'll see that it's actually going to extract the data. When we go back to dashboard, it's going to ask you for a location of the extract. You can just save it. And the last thing I would do is probably give the dashboard tab a name, just because when you publish it to Tableau, publish it to Tableau Public, it'll help you sort of differentiate this dashboard from another one. So I'm going to hide all these tabs by right-clicking on them, choosing Hide Sheet, and then I'm going to change the name of this to Congressional Map. Congressional Map Viz, and I'm going back to Server. Well, before I do that, I want to make sure I don't have anything selected. There's no filters that are actually on. I'm going to do Server, Tableau Public, Save to Tableau Public As. It's going to ask me for my login, which I'm going to put in. And then it's going to ask you for the name of your dashboard. So I'm going to give the dashboard a snappy title. Who's running for Congress this year? And I'm going to save it. And then when it's done, you'll see that it publishes to Tableau Public. And now I can take it and I can share it with the world using the share button, either through an embed code or through the link. I can let other people download the dashboard if they want to download the workbook and the data behind it. That's no problem. I can do that up there. And I can embed it into a content management system at this point. So it takes just a minute because this is a pretty large data set. But as soon as that's completed, which it's about to do right now, I will show you what it looks like when it's uploaded to Tableau Public. Come on. Almost there. You can see it almost finished. And then this is the dashboard that we just created. I'm going to edit any details down at the bottom that I want to. I'm going to say, go ahead and show the workbook sheets as tabs. Actually, it doesn't matter because I've hidden them all. I'm going to allow the workbook to be downloaded. I'm going to choose Save. And then if you scroll up, once it's done refreshing, you'll see that this is appearing up at the top on Tableau Public. Your state and your district filters should work just fine. It's teeny tiny here because I have zoomed in the page so that it's a little easier to see the entire thing while we're on this recording. But if you choose Arizona, you'll see that Arizona will zoom in, and then I'll be able to select the specific districts within Arizona. And sure enough, here we go, is from District 2 in Arizona. There's the incumbent, there's all the information, and here's who wants the seat. All right. So thank you very much for your time today. Please feel free to send any questions my direction. This is what we're going to cover. Actually, here's my contact information here at the top. I'm going to make this a little smaller so that you can see it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out over email or send a question in the chat window. And we'll have this recording up in about a day, along with all of the resource files so that you can download them and use them for your visualizations. If you create an elections visualization or even a different kind of viz, and you want to share it to us, you can send it to Tableau Public on Twitter, or you can send it to me directly. Or if you get anything published, you're certainly welcome to share it with us too. We'd love to see what you're working on these days. So thanks so much for your time. I hope you have a great day and you're able to use this information to create custom elections dashboards for this year's election.